You've worked hard to build what you have. But the real question is, are you now creating a plan to use your money in a way that creates clarity, confidence, and long term security? That, my friend, is the $1 million question. For more than 36 years of advising millionaires, I can tell you this: wealth isn't about complexity, it's about clarity, consistency, and having a plan that works for you and your family. In today's episode, I'm going to break down some of the most important millionaire money tips I have learned over the last 3 decades so you can stop guessing and start planning and creating a financially secure life in retirement you love, regardless of where you are financially. So, welcome to the Millionaire Insider podcast, formerly the Wealth Inside and Out podcast, where we help you create a confident, secure retirement and life you love. I'm Annette Ba'u, certified financial planner and founder of the Millionaire Insider. For over 36 years, I've helped pre-retirees and retirees turn their paychecks into guaranteed income, reduce unnecessary risk, protect their legacy, and design a retirement filled with purpose and freedom. Because true wealth isn't just about money, it's about confidence, clarity, and control over your future. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/169. If you want a free resource that goes really well with today's episode, you can download our Millionaire Mindset Guide at themillionaireinsider.com/MMG. The first step to not only becoming a millionaire, but also staying a millionaire is to think like one. And this guide is going to show you how. It provides the insight you need to achieve your goals and dreams and really get on the fast track of the success you need to create a life you love. Again, you can access it at themillionaireinsider.com/MMG. The Millionaire Insider copyrights all materials and intellectual property. This information is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to replace any advice of any advisor or specialist or to provide any investment, financial, tax, retirement planning, or healthcare advice. Always consult with a qualified professional, fiduciary, before making any financial decisions or changes. So let's dive into what do millionaires do with their money? We're going to dive into 7 insights. So number 1, millionaires understand that a financial plan is their foundation to a secure future, possibly the most important step they can take. So why does a plan matter so much, and really even more than returns or performance? One thing that's really interesting about millionaires is it's like when they're making their money, they take major risk. Now, granted, they're typically at the realm of that, meaning making all those decisions. But once they get the money and they accumulate it, it really does change. They don't chase performance. They create a strategy and they follow it. A plan is going to answer, where are you today? Where are you going? And what do you need to do next to achieve your goals? When you look at an ideal plan, it's going to include an income strategy, an investment assessment and allocation aligned with your goals and objectives. And typically, you're going to have those in different categories: tax planning, estate planning, and risk analysis. And the result is that you have calm, clarity, and confidence. You know how much you can spend. You stop guessing. You no longer second guess, and you feel in control of your financial future. Number 2, they shift from a focus on growth and net worth accumulation to a focus on income. Now, this is really interesting. And I'm talking more about the millionaires that really have calm, peaceful lives, not the ones that are on a roller coaster, because there clearly are those. And there's ones that can never get out of that growth mindset. And I get it. When you're used to not only making a really good amount of money, but also really being focused on growth, it can really be challenging to get out of that and focus in on income. But that shift changes everything. Net worth looks great on paper, right? We can brag about being multi-millionaires, but income is what creates the security, just that calm peace of mind that we all crave. A retirement paycheck replaces the uncertainty with stability. We know what's going to happen. So where do those sources of revenue come from? Obviously, Social Security is a huge one, if it's going to be here. I keep talking about this. It concerns me a lot because we're not funding it. We're not funding it and no one's talking about it. We're what? Almost at 40 trillion in our deficit with no end in sight. And a lot of the sources that were funding Social Security are no longer there. It is a problem. And whether or not you're acknowledging it or you're creating a plan for it is going to dictate so much about your future. So if you do one thing, let it be that you create a plan where Social Security is not your main source of income. Company pensions are huge. Now, some people still have those, especially if you were the owner, but those are becoming few and far between. And so then the most likely option is guaranteed lifetime income, where you create a contract with an insurance company and you give them a certain amount of money and then they guarantee a lifetime income for you and or your spouse's life. And those are probably the most powerful and one of my favorites, just because if you set them up correctly and you're really sensitive about taxes, you can not only minimize taxes, but you can ultimately get the insurance company to fund your retirement. That to me is ideal. So, why does all this matter? The first thing you got to do is you got to have money to cover your essential expenses. And that's one thing that millionaires get. You want to reduce the stress about market volatility. Unless you enjoy being stressed out because the market's going up or down, or with one day's news, who knows what's going to happen, it's not fun. And this type of a plan allows you to enjoy your retirement without that voice or the fear or the worry, all those things that come with not having a plan or having a portfolio that is completely growth focused. The other thing that millionaires do is they focus on protecting what they've built. Like I'm telling you, they take outrageous risk to get there. And then once they get there, they no longer want the risk. It's fascinating. Now, I'm not saying all of them do. I mean, as I share with you, I know probably over a dozen individuals and stories of individuals who accumulated over 100 million who ended up broke just because they just don't get it. Like, right? They're just still in that growth risk, overspending, and they don't realize that there's not an infinite amount of money for anyone. Risk management to these type of millionaires is not optional. They make sure they've got their life insurance, their long-term care, and if applicable, their disability plan in place. And they have a plan for unexpected events that can derail even the best of plan. And that is critical. They make sure they have their estate plan in order with their wills and trusts, their power of attorney, beneficiary designations, medical directives, and anything else that's applicable. Meaning they understand that all that has to work together and they understand that they create their plan and then they've got to coordinate it. That's just the first step. It most certainly does not guarantee that everything's going to pass according to their wishes if they don't coordinate the titling and the beneficiary designation of all their assets. You know, the goal in all this is to protect yourself and your family and to preserve your wealth and to ensure that your wishes are carried out. And that's something that I have seen over the course of my career that is just stayed so consistent, is they are so clear on that. The fourth thing is they coordinate their bigger picture plan. They don't plan in silos. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes most people make. You know, they've got their investments here with their broker, they've got their taxes with their CPA, they've got their income, maybe, and then they've got their estate planning, and no one's coordinating it. Coordination is critical because one decision impacts so many others. Poor coordination increases your taxes, and it can even reduce your income and even cause your estate not to be distributed according to your wishes. The game changer is really having a coordinated, integrated plan and strategies that work together, not against each other. And, you know, unfortunately, that kind of planning is really a loss leader, but I'm telling you, it's critical. And one of the things that I see that's so important is the fact that it's not something like, you know, people say, well, like when you're in the growth stage, oh, now you can use AI. And possibly to some extent you can. The problem is it misses the intricacies. It misses those little questions that have such profound impacts, right? The insight that you get from knowing based on a person's situation, what's the next best question to ask. And that's what I've seen consistently these millionaires I'm talking about get. All right, number 5, millionaires build wealth through habits, not income. You know, high income does not equal wealth. Most high earners are high spenders, and rarely do they accumulate a serious amount of money unless they get real serious and they make it a priority. I have a couple, three to be exact, high earners that have chosen to work with me. And in every case, I'm like, this is never going to last, right? Because just high earners don't love me because I'm all about accumulating wealth. And I would much rather have money in the bank than look like I had money. But what I have found in every single case, and I have worked with these people ranging from probably every one of them at least 30 years. So it's crazy. It's fascinating. But what they understand is that without structure, money just kind of evaporates. What's fascinating to work with people where it's kind of like they don't really have a budget, they just spend what they make. And problem with that is that when it comes to retirement is you don't have the years or the time or the earning potential to make that up. So some of the most critical wealth building habits that tie to this are saving consistently, being really intentional with your spending, as well as your long-term thinking. Now, I'm going to give you an example. So we're having our bathroom, our final bathroom in our cabin redone. And this is a bathroom that was there. It was the only bathroom we had when we bought this place. And now we have what? One, two, three, four. So it's really interesting because it's just been a little bit of work, but we got a contractor and he's doing a great job, absolutely great job. Well, there was a few issues that came up. So we're going to pay him almost two times of what he quoted us. And he is just like, oh my gosh, he has just done such a great job. And to me, that's important. Like, I love the fact that he is meticulous about detail. It's taken him about twice as long. And he just looked like he was going to actually fall off his ladder. I'm like, get down. Well, we talked about this. But he's just like, oh my gosh, that is so, so nice. I so appreciate that. But he did a painting job for us because he's just like a general overall do anything kind of guy. And there was one area that he didn't know that we wanted painted. And he's like, oh, no problem. Came back, did it. I gave him extra money, but it was just like, I just liked the fact that he did it without even asking for money. It's interesting because sometimes in the middle of jobs, people are like, oh, I need more money, and then you're like, kind of like, you're in the middle of the job and you're like, well, what are you going to do? And I just always find that to be, I don't know if it's deceptive or what, but I love that. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about intentional spending, that you have the money to be able to pay somebody almost double, that you have the money to give to people that really need it. That is what I'm talking about. Wealth is created through behavior and discipline over time, meaning how we hardwire those neural pathways so that we show up consistently and we do the things that are going to allow us to live our best life and allow us to live fulfilled, which in my opinion is what it's all about. All right, number 6, they understand that clarity creates confidence. Not knowing your numbers leads to hesitation, fear, stress, worry, anxiety. But when you know your numbers, clarity looks like a whole different ballgame. It goes from those limited emotions to elevated emotions where you can experience joy, peace of mind, calmness, confidence. You know your income, you understand your expenses, the mandatory must need expenses as well as the want expenses, and you can see your big picture. The outcome is you make better decisions. You feel calm and in control, and you can move forward in your life with confidence to where you can have the peace of mind. I was sitting out on one of our decks this morning and I was just sitting there. My husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just sitting here. And he goes, is everything okay? I go, yeah. I go, we are so blessed and so lucky. I've been up here for the whole week. Now, granted, I've had to work. I mean, I shouldn't say I've had to work. I get to work. I enjoy working, but I've got a lot of work to do. And my son's finishing up school. We're heading down to our beach front house, and then we're back up here for Memorial Day. And I was just sitting there just going, we are so blessed. I was just so ecstatic that we are in a financial position where money is not an issue in our lives. And I just want you to be there and stay there. All right, number 7, millionaires understand that wealth is about more than money. At some point, more isn't the goal. Meaning, purpose really becomes the goal. And the secret is really to align money with what matters. Time with your family, health, well-being, experiences, and fulfillment. And even time alone. I think that the time I spend alone, the time I spend meditating, up here we have it's crazy, but we have an eucalyptus sauna and we have an infrared sauna. And it is so nice to just go in one, do my meditation, go on the other. Sometimes I read, sometimes I just am in there, but it's just priceless. It's so wonderful. And that's what conscious spending, intentional spending, really being clear on what your fulfilled ideal life looks like. The real goal is to spend time doing what you love. And what I find is the more time I can spend on my inner self, the more I enjoy experiences with others. And my mother's death 5 years ago, it would have been so much more devastating. And sure, I miss her, but at the same point, the last few years, she was really did not spend time with any of us, meaning she lived with one of my sisters and they just kind of like live in their own little pod. And so that was hard for me to just cope with because we always, especially when my dad was alive and then even after his death, I mean, we just did everything together. And it just kind of went from like overkill that way to nothing. And I can honestly say that getting really clear on what a fulfilled life looks like to me, thank goodness I have such an amazing family. It allows you to get through those tough times that without that inner depth, without that foundation, you may not be able to do. Or if you do, it's not as successful. But the real key in all of this, when you start looking at your money, is to really see your money as a tool, not a source of stress. And when you create the right plan, that's exactly what you get. So let's just recap. Possibly the biggest insight is that millionaires are intentional with their money and they work hard not to complicate it. When you focus on creating a plan as well as an income strategy and then protecting what you've built and then coordinating everything, your entire life is going to change. You move from uncertainty to clarity, from stress to confidence, and you stop wondering if you're going to be okay because you are, because you have a plan and you have a contingency plan. I just hope you know that you can do this. And when you do it, you're going to spend less time worrying about money and more time living the life you love. And oh, my friend, that is such the key. Now, if you don't have a plan that's coordinated with your big picture, I really encourage you to go to themillionaireinsider.com/support. This is one of the most critical decisions you can make, whether you're a multi-millionaire or you are just in the accumulation of your first million. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/support. Now, if you have over $500,000 in investable assets or are making over $200,000 of income, you can take our 5Q assessment at themillionaireinsider.com/5Q. This assessment is only 5 questions and it determines what your next best step is, meaning if we can help you or if not, what you should be doing. So again, themillionaireinsider.com/5Q. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I'm Annette Ba'u. All international copyrights are reserved. Bye for now.